Okay, y'all, welcome back. This is the official introduction to my high tunnel, which I've been talking about a lot, and I've actually gotten a lot of comments and some emails asking me about the high tunnel. When's the video coming? So this is it. And I probably won't do most of the talking. It'll probably be mostly Sean, but I do have some questions for Sean about the tunnel, some questions that you guys have asked me that I promised to pass along to Sean. But yeah, this is it. This is my Mindful Farmer Arkansas tunnel. I'm so excited about it. It is truly like a dream come true. I want you to move out of the way, and you out of the way. Hey, out of the way. But yeah, I wanted to kind of interview Sean, ask him some questions, and hopefully it'll be helpful for you guys to answer some of your high tunnel questions. But I guess my first question for you, Sean, is what is so special about growing in a tunnel versus growing outdoors? Why is that so? Why do market gardeners want to grow in a tunnel?
Yeah. That's a great question, and really, you know, the answer applies to like both home gardeners and market gardeners and like professional farmers. Is this idea of like called protected culture? So like someone in horticulture would call this protected culture, and what that basically means is you're like sheltering your plants from the elements. So not only are we like blocking the rain, blocking the wind, we're blocking cold. So there's some element of like which these plants are kind of a little more babied than they would be outdoors. And I think too, like for me, the biggest benefit of using a high tunnel like this is that you're blocking the rain, so you're having like less pest and disease.
Yes.
And then secondly would be the trellising, which you showed that in the video. That I think is like even more valuable than the benefit you get from the heat. I think that's probably like third. But using like every sheet of plastic you use basically moves you down a plant hardiness zone. So we're in 7B, so it's like growing in 8B, like basically East Texas, Northern Louisiana. If you did like a double layer of plastic with a blower, which is most of what northern growers do, it'd move you even further to like South Louisiana, and you'd have that level of heat in your tunnel.
That's really cool. So you met with me the very end of last year. I knew that I wanted to do market gardening, and I knew Melanie. I knew your wife before I knew you. So I knew Melanie, and Melanie had kind of given me a heads up that you were doing some like consulting services. I knew you were like a legit market gardener, and I'm like, heck yeah, like this is like the boost of confidence I need, is to know that I have a friend that can kind of come and help me out and can kind of get behind me and just kind of help me get along the way. That was just like the boost of confidence I needed, honestly. But the thing, when you came out that afternoon or whatever it was, you met with us for a couple hours, and you always has to be in the video, always. It was like just the boost of confidence I needed to get you out here and kind of basically just tell me, you know, this is what you need to do to get started. But anyways, you got into talking about high tunnels, and I really didn't even consider growing in a high tunnel until you had mentioned, I don't even know if you remember telling me this, but you had said something about, you know, out at the ranch where you were growing, how much bigger your yields were in the tunnel versus growing outdoors. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that at all? Kind of elaborate?
Yeah. So at the farm that I've managed for the past 4 years, almost 5 years, we use 3 different production systems. So we do a high tunnel, we do a market garden, which is like permanent raised beds, Jean Martin kind of style. And then we also do tractor cultivated crops. And so we use a small walk behind tractor, and we do things on 18-inch rows, kind of old school, like someone might do with like a mule or a horse, so something like that. And so those crops for us yield maybe like probably as much as 50,000 an acre on the tractor cultivated crops. When we go to the market garden, it's probably closer to like 125,000 an acre, and then in a tunnel would be closer to like 250 per acre. Yeah. Of course, most farmers don't have an acre of high tunnels. Right.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. I mean, we can all dream. But yeah, I mean, so like the level of production and income goes up. So, you know, for people that are starting out in market gardening, and that was why we talked about it during the farm consult, was like what you can get out of this and doing tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, cucumbers, you know, lettuces, things like that are fresh, that there's always a demand for. You always get a high dollar for. You know, that compared to doing, like when I meet with other folks and they're like, I want to start farming, I'm going to do purple whole peas, okra, yellow squash, and it's all the stuff that everyone else has that's really low value, that takes up a lot of space. Yeah. And so, you know, and you were going to be working part-time on this and still have another job and a mom. And so, you know, like to be able to focus on something that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. Yeah. And that's where the tunnel is just so valuable that, I mean, that's what we're doing in our own backyard. We're putting up we're doing cut flowers in our backyard, and I'm just going to cover every single zone with a tunnel.
So that kind of leads into the next thing that I really wanted to make sure we hit on was the fact that, you know, you think about these high tunnels, these big giant tunnels, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, those are like legit farmers. Like, you don't do that in a backyard. But the thing that's cool about what you offer is, well, heck yeah, if you're a backyard gardener, you actually can put a tunnel in your backyard and you can grow and have these high yields in your own backyard for your family if you wanted to. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So you know, working with farmers around the state of Arkansas, and having put up like the really big tunnels that are 30 feet by 96 feet, putting up some of the kits that people get online, I just recognized that there was a really big need for a kit that's more geared towards southern growers. Most of the greenhouse manufacturers are up north. A kit that is geared towards simplicity. Like a lot of the ones you might get online are like in all these different pieces, all these different boxes, so they can make them more shippable. But then it makes it complex. It takes too long to put together. And so I really wanted a tunnel that worked for Arkansas farmers, that worked for small scale and scaling farmers, as well as like home gardeners, and it was like easier to put together and just made more sense to put together. And so so that was where I came up with, you know, Mindful Farmer, and just to like be able to get that product out there. You know, I want the farm system to be revolutionized, and you know, no one can do that alone. Like it's going to take hundreds of thousands of us, like small scale farmers and homesteaders, gardeners, all like pitching in. And so having the right tools, I think, is critical for that. And so that was where I got, you know, this design is that, you know, 20 feet, this one's 20 feet by 48 feet. So the larger ones that farmers use around the state are typically 30 by 96. And those can just be like a little oversized, I think.
That would have been way overwhelming for me.
It's way overwhelming, and like if you have, you know, 100-foot row of tomatoes, that's a lot of tomatoes to pick. And it kind of goes into this like, you know, building a system that works for you. You know, you could plant one row of tomatoes that's 500 feet, or you could plant 5 rows that are 100 feet. And you know, how exhausted are you by the time you get to the end of that row? And so I wanted to do a smaller tunnel to where, you know, it was more, it'd be more approachable for smaller scale farmers.
So the smallest size tunnel that you offer is what size?
So I do a mobile greenhouse. So that has an automatic vent. I did that one for Bell Urban Farm, for a few people, but there's one at Bell Urban Farm in Conway. And that's 14 feet by 18 feet. And then I'm doing a 16 by 24. So it's more narrow than this one, and then it's half as long. And that would have the roll-up sides. That's like a permanent in-ground one. The greenhouse is actually mobile, so you could move it around.
So that's what's really cool about that, because what size was it again? The greenhouse?
14 by 18 feet.
Okay, so it's small enough. Is that the size that you have in your own backyard?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really cool. When I went to visit Melanie. It's been months and months ago, to let the boys play, and that's when I was first introduced to your tunnel, and I thought that was so cool. It was just, y'all were just using it for your personal backyard use. I mean, y'all have a small backyard. I don't know what size it is, but it's just like a typical backyard. You had that greenhouse in there, you were growing stuff in it, and then right next to it you had your chickens in a same thing. So I think it's so cool because technically it could be like versatile. You could you could use it as, what do you call it, a chicken schooner. So you could put your chickens in it, let them like cultivate the ground for you, correct? And then you can move your chickens out, and you can actually plant that ground, and you can use it as your tunnel, like all in your backyard, which is so cool. I think that's a really awesome idea, and I don't know of anybody else that offers that. So anyways, really cool. So one of the first of all, one of the awesome things that I thought was just great about the tunnel was that my friend built it. So that's a bonus right there. But the huge draw for me was that I didn't have to put this together. Like, if I had ordered one of those kits, not knocking the kits at all, I think they're great.
We can do that. Let's knock the kits.
Yeah, let's knock the kits. No. I might have to edit that out. I don't know.
No, don't do it. I put enough of this together.
Right. I mean, like, Sean built this for me. I did not have to build it. I mean, I would come out sometimes and I would just watch. Like, I didn't work at all. But I also didn't really pay any extra to have you build it for me. I mean, it was the same price had I ordered a kit and put it together myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's the big difference, and that's what I've seen is like, at the same time I was building Lauren's, I was building another one for a farmer that had been a kit. They paid more for their kit. It's less user-friendly.
Right.
And then it still took me over 5 days to put the whole thing together. And this took me 5 full days to put it together. And so for less money, you get it assembled, and it's a more user-friendly kit. And
I'll tell you, because Tyler and I were intentionally trying to be out here when you were building, now if we did in the future, if we happened to buy a kit, we would be a little more prepared in how to put it together. Because honestly, watching you put this together, like, I was thinking, like, holy cow, like, had we bought a kit, I wouldn't have a tunnel right now because it would have been that overwhelming. Yeah. So,
and that's what I run into is folks maybe they get a grant through the Equip cost share program. They get the kit and then are just like immediately overwhelmed with how many parts and how you fit stuff together. The instructions don't match up with what came, and so I mean, when you get a kit or when you get a tunnel from me, it's start to finish. And so if a piece is missing, like, I go home and get it and I bring it back. And so I mean, that's really what I want, and for folks to get out of it is to just get something that works for them, that matches the scale that we're at as small scale farmers and homesteaders, and really something that works for someone at any professional level. Like, some of those tunnels that are available online are like meant for professional growers that would double insulate it and have heating elements, and like in Arkansas, we're just not in it just doesn't.
Right.
We're not in a climate that justifies those things, and so I really wanted to, put the value in the tunnel where things needed, like the truss system, so you can trellis, versus doing all this additional supports or over-engineered doors or other things that I see that aren't necessary because we don't have the snow load that they have up north where these kits are being manufactured.
So if somebody wanted you to come out to their property and build a tunnel for them, where are you doing that? Are you doing that all over Arkansas right now, or? Yeah,
so right now I'm covering all of Arkansas, and then if you're really close to the border, we can make that work. We're in the middle of Arkansas. It's about a 2.5 hour drive to any of the borders. So if you're within 3 hours, we can do that. And then a large tunnel, full size tunnel. Lawrence is 20 by 48. They can go up to 96 feet long. So 20 by 96 would be the biggest. That would take a full week worth of work to get that from start to finish. If you do decide you want a tunnel, you could email us at Sean@mindfulfarmerarkansas.com.
And I'll put all that in the description too.
And then or message us on Instagram, or get a hold of us. And usually what I'll do is do like a site visit ahead of time. Usually discuss, through a phone call, what it is you're looking for, and make sure that it's the right product for what your need is. I don't want to oversell anything, to anybody. And then secondly, we would do a site visit about a month before to make sure, like, can we drive to the site? Can we?
We may or may not have had a little swampy situation, but
that wasn't a jab. But yeah, just to like make construction go easier. But
Tyler may or may not have had to pull Sean out with the tractor once.
Just once. Yeah, so like driving to the site, and then also like a level site.
Yeah. So basically, Sean worked out all the kinks on my property so he can make it flow seamlessly on yours.
Yep. Lauren and Tyler were the guinea pigs. Just it can be done if a site's not level. It can be done if a site isn't drivable. But what it's probably it would be a little bit more work on me. It'd be a lot more work on the tunnel owner.
We were like busting our butts to try to get it level in here, and so
because trying to level it after you've built the tunnel is just such a pain. Or if you're trying to add compost after you built the tunnel, it's just so much harder than if you just could drive a truck up, dump the compost, spread it, and then I just build the tunnel over it. And usually, and if you had a spot you're already gardening too, like that also helps. The soil is already right and ready for a tunnel, and the tunnel's just gonna expand on the work you already done in that space.
Okay. Do you want to we can walk around and you can show them all the cool things?
All the cool things.
Okay, so I'm going to flip you around here in just a minute, but Sean's going to kind of take us through and show us some of the details about the tunnel and what makes it so stinking cool. So here we go.
This is something I'm probably going to change. I'm going to move this little doodad up there.
Oh, okay.
To where you won't have to bend down to undo it. All right, so the doors are polycarbonate. They're solid. And the reason why I chose that is because I've seen a lot of holes get pushed through. Yeah. If you're trying to open something up and you push against it,
or you have two little boys who are constantly kicking on them.
Poke holes through it. So tough polycarbonate doors, that also helps, keep them straight and square. A latch that you can open from inside and outside. But the thing that I noticed, the tunnels that I thought was a bad design of other tunnels I've seen, is that the doors don't lay flat against the tunnel. Oh, okay. So a lot of the tunnels, they use traditional hinges where they'll stick out like that. Yeah. And if you don't have a way of securing that door, like a big wind's going to slam it into the tunnel, or it's going to swing it the other way, and it's going to break off. And I speak from experience. It's happened a few times. So I know I wanted a door that would lay flat against the tunnel. So we're using a special hinge that actually comes out off the tunnel. And then that way it can be secured to the tunnel door. For Arkansas, we don't really have to open and close our tunnels. Right. It's like our winters are fairly moderate, summers are excruciating. Yeah. Once you get to May, the doors just stay open. Yeah. And it's really just for March, April, where you might be raising and lowering the sides. So that was a design feature that it was if I'm going to build tunnels, I know I want a door that lays flat against the end wall.
Very cool.
And then the truss system. Like I said earlier, from what your highest value crops in a tunnel are going to be your lettuces that you can grow year round. At the farm that I've managed, we plant lettuce every single week of the year. Even at our house, we're in January, which is really cool. Our stuff survived the polar vortex. Yes. Degrees, and it's still, was it -3 degrees?
I don't know. It was crazy.
And so that's really cool that you can grow year round through the winter. But in the summertime, where you really get the bang for your buck is the trellising. That these tomatoes are going to be trellised and hard pruned to put more energy into the fruit than in the leaves. You'll get a lot more yield per plant. The produce will be more marketable. It'll be higher quality. Less birds punching holes in it, less sun scald, all that great stuff. And so, the trellising to me is the value of it. So the truss system not only adds strength to the tunnel, but also gives you a place to hang your trellis system. Yeah.
Because you told me one time, I can't remember, was it hundreds or thousands of pounds? Once the tomato plant starts growing up and it actually starts producing fruit, that is a lot of weight. So it's got to be a strong truss in order to hold that weight.
Yeah, in our in a full-size tunnel, a 30 by 96, I think last year we did 12,000 pounds of tomatoes. Yeah. And there's probably, I don't know, a good amount of that, probably a fourth of that.
Yeah. So it's got to be strong. Very cool.
So the truss system, I think is really important for tunnels, and when people are looking for kits online, that's an added cost. But if you're not using it and you're just getting this huge, kind of rounded dome, you're just not really making use of the structure itself. And so I really think trellising is worth the money. And it's going to make it stronger for a snowstorm, windstorm. It just adds rigidity to the structure. So I think the other thing will probably be down there.
Okay.
We'll talk about the sidewalls.
Yep.
Bye, Mom.
So the roll-up sides, I think was also an important like feature when I was going about designing this tunnel. Is that a lot of the kits online have options for like a 4-foot, 5-foot, or 6-foot sidewall. I've used the shortest, I think on our kit, which was 5 foot, but it probably actually only opens 4 feet wide, and have noticed. I mean, that's been plenty enough ventilation. The folks that I've seen that have purchased the 6-foot sidewalls, it makes the tunnel so high that one, I think it makes it more vulnerable to like wind damage, and then two, you can't reach your trellis system. So the way that I did the trellis in Lawrence Tunnel is that it's 8 feet tall, so it's about tall enough to where, you know, that last cluster of tomatoes, you could still reach that. If you were vertically challenged like myself, you know, you could get a small step ladder in the bucket to reach the top. But it doesn't put things so far out of reach that you have to go get a ladder. And so I think 8 feet is like prime height for the tunnel between the ground and the trellis system. And so yeah, so I would really advise against getting super tall tunnels. You know, you can always take off the plastic at the top of the end wall if you need additional ventilation. They also make vents that go up there. But yeah, I think the high sidewalls can just be spending extra money on something like that.
Yeah.
And then also we did, we just continued the plastic down, but it has this double channel. So if Lauren wanted to in the future, she could put in like insect netting in this second channel. Or if, you know, let's say a tree fell through the top or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, not that there's any trees over here. Something happened. You could just replace this top plastic. It's independent of this second piece.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or you can use, if you get shape cloth in the summertime, you can put that, secure it with a wiggle wire in that channel. And that also adds to the strength of the structure. The crank too, these cranks aren't a lot, but you know, it's geared, and I think that's important. So some of the other tunnels I've seen have either, the two that I've seen most recently that came from other manufacturers, like one was under-engineered. It was just straight power to this. There was no gearbox, and so you just had to physically turn it. And so you had to have two people, one on each end of the tunnel, and to crank the whole thing up. And then, you know, and the other one I've seen that was geared, it was all metal, so it was really expensive. And you had to use a special like key to turn it. And you had to sit there and turn it and turn it and turn it.
Is that like a two-man job or a one-man job? Or
the one that's just like the straight handle is definitely two-man.
Two-man.
And the one that has the metal gearbox is a one-person job, but it just takes forever to turn that thing. You have to keep up with that.
Yeah.
And then this I really like because it's just electrical conduit. And then this thing is geared, but it's also just simple enough to use.
Right.
To where one person,
super easy.
You can do it with one hand if you wanted to, and go back the other way. And then you're just kind of using the other hand to stabilize it and to kind of help keep everything in line.
It's legit easy enough that my 5-year-old can do it because I'm constantly having to keep him off of it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's just the kind of stuff that, like, I've seen from my experience in the, you know, few years that I've been doing this, you know, choices that other manufacturers have made that were, like, either, I don't know, sometimes wonder why they made those choices.
Right.
It works for folks like, you know, if you're holding a baby, you can and lower this thing, you know. And I think that's important for like functionality for especially smaller growers, people that are doing it part time, or for families, you know, to have the kids that can do it and stuff. So this is the Lauren's first season. Your first season.
Yes.
And you know, you're doing tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers. And then as the season progresses, you're going to shift to other crops. So like, having this tunnel, your season doesn't end in November. You're, you know, and that's kind of one of the things that was a game changer for me when I started using a tunnel, was like it almost shifted my way of thinking to where my season starts in August and then ends next July.
Yeah.
Because it's like most of my high value crops and lettuces and spinach, I was harvesting in December, January, and February. So like changes.
Yeah,
the way you think
it
about
has
the
been
growing year.
hard for me to think differently. Then it's just different from how I've ever grown anything. So
Yeah, and so for this winter, you know, as each of these crops come out, you know, Lauren's going to have the next round of crops behind it. So she could follow the cucumbers with another round of tomatoes, and then follow these tomatoes with lettuce. That's going to carry her over through the fall, and then the peppers come out, and the spinach goes in. You know, and it's just all high value real estate is the way that I talk about it. So it always helps you, you know, to have a plan of like have something that goes in right behind something else, so you're really getting the most out of this space. But you should be able, you know, I think definitely pay for it within a season.
okay, y'all. That's it. I'm really excited that I got to share this. This has been a long time coming. A lot of y'all have been asking questions about it, and I'm just happy that I could finally get Sean out here to shoot the video. But yeah, this is awesome. The tunnel is so like, it's just really well thought out.
It's mindfully made.
It's mindfully thought out. It's mindfully made. I'm really excited about it. I hope this video was very helpful for you. Like I said, I'm going to drop Sean's info in the description on this video. So if you have any questions for him, you can reach out to him or reach out to me and I can get you in contact with him either way. I hope this was helpful for you, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.